Henry had always been the pride of his family. Brilliant, disciplined, the boy his parents sacrificed everything to send away to university, certain that the values they'd raised him on would travel with him wherever he went. He arrived with nothing but good intentions and a beginning that felt, for a while, almost perfect. But every beginning carries within it the seed of what comes next. This is episode 2, The Life He Chose. Henry had never felt freedom like this before. No one waking him for morning devotion, no one checking what time he came in, or who he sat with, or how long he stayed out. For the first time in his life, the choices were entirely his own. No teacher, looking over his shoulder, ready to report to his parents. No younger ones around, looking up to him as the example to follow. He was for the first time entirely in a world of his own making. And in those early days, that freedom felt like nothing but a gift. He walked across the campus grounds each morning like a man discovering a country he'd only ever heard about in stories. Wide-eyed, grateful, certain that nothing here could go wrong. He did not yet understand that freedom, real freedom, is not the absence of someone watching. It is what a man does with himself when no one is. It didn't take long for Henry to find his people. Within the first few weeks, a small crop of friends had gathered around him. Easy laughter, late-night gist, the kind of belonging that makes a new place start to feel like home. It appeared, almost from the first conversation, as if his heart had all along been waiting for exactly this. He loved it, genuinely. There is nothing wrong, after all, in wanting to belong. Every young man arriving somewhere new carries that same hunger. To be known, to be wanted, to matter to somebody. But belonging, Henry would come to learn, is rarely a neutral thing. It always comes with a price tag, and the danger of it is never in the wanting. The danger is in who you allow to be the ones who choose you. The question is only ever whether you notice the cost before you've already paid it. Emeka was older, a few years ahead, though it felt like more. He had a way of walking into a room that made the room feel smaller around him. Always relaxed, always smiling, always with money in his pocket, though nobody quite knew where it came from. And somehow, nobody quite asked. Henry noticed him the way you notice anyone who seems to have already solved the things you're still struggling with. The confidence, the ease, the sense that life had already handed him its answers. And when Emeka spoke to him, really spoke to him, like he mattered, like his opinion was worth something, Henry felt a thing he hadn't expected to feel this early into university life. He felt chosen. He did not stop to ask himself why a man with so much could possibly need the company of a boy with so little. That question would come. Just not yet. And then there was taller, sharp, beautiful, the kind of careless that looks from a distance, like confidence, and only later reveals itself as something else entirely. She didn't try to be noticed. She simply was, the way certain people simply are, without effort, without apology. That was the thing about Emeka and Tola. Whatever was falling apart in your life, whatever debt, whatever failure, whatever shame you carried through the door, the moment you sat with them, it seemed smaller. They had a way of making the wrong things feel completely harmless. Henry didn't know yet that this feeling had a name. He only knew that he wanted more of it. He believed, the way the young often believe, that he had finally found his kind of people. The right friends, at the right time, in the right place. He was not wrong that they were exactly the people meant to find him. He was only wrong about what that meant. The first time they took him along, it was just supposed to be one evening. A small gathering, nothing serious. The kind of evening 1,000 other students were having, all across the city, on 1,000 other ordinary nights. He loved the gathering of his crop of friends, the noise, the laughter, the warmth of belonging to something larger than his own four walls. But something else was pulling at him too, quietly, underneath all of it. The bottles standing on the table, catching the light. The sound of beer being poured. That slow, golden cascade into the glass. Rising, settling, catching the light like it was performing just for him. He didn't know why he found it beautiful. He just did. There was something almost ceremonial about it. The pour, the pause, the first sip lifted like a small private toast to a life he was only just beginning to taste. Nobody in that room thought to tell him that beautiful things can still be dangerous. Nobody mentioned that the same golden color that looked so warm in the glass had quietly ended other stories before his. So Henry sat, and he watched, and he told himself, the way every young man tells himself in that exact moment, that this was different, that he was only watching, that one evening could not possibly cost him anything at all. He did not yet know that some doors do not announce themselves as doors. Some doors simply look like a chair pulled out for you, and a glass placed gently into your hand, and a room full of people who already seem to like you exactly as you are. It wasn't one decision. That's the part nobody tells you about a slow drift. It never feels like a decision at all. It feels like 100 small choices, each one small enough to forgive, each one quiet enough to forget by morning. A textbook left unopened for one more evening. A lecture skipped just this once. Surely it wouldn't matter, just this once. A walk that turned into a longer walk beside someone whose company felt easier, somehow, than the weight of his own conscience. This is how it begins for almost everyone who ever drifted anywhere they did not intend to go. Not with a single dramatic fall, but with a long, gentle leaning, so gradual that the person leaning rarely notices they have left the ground they once stood on. Many never find the strength to stop, not because the strength was never in them, but because nothing in the moment ever feels urgent enough to demand it. There is always tomorrow. There is always one more evening to get it right. Henry was not becoming a different person. Not yet. He still prayed on the nights he remembered to. He still loved his parents, still meant every word he wrote home. He was simply becoming a little less careful with who he was, and a little less troubled by how easily he had stopped noticing. Not everyone was fooled. Amaka watched from a distance, not with judgment, but with the quiet concern of someone who could see a little further down the road than Henry could. She said nothing, for now. Some things she knew. A person has to see for themselves before any warning will mean anything at all. She had known Henry longer than most. Years before, in secondary school, they had stood across from each other in inter-school debate competitions. Two of the sharpest minds their schools had to offer, each one secretly impressed by the other's nerve. Amaka had been raised in a home of quiet discipline, faith woven into the ordinary rhythm of her days rather than reserved for Sundays alone. She had long ago decided who she wanted to become, and nothing about university life had loosened that decision. She watched Henry now the way you watch a friend wandering close to an edge they cannot yet see, wanting to call out, knowing the call might come too soon to be heard. And somewhere far from campus, in a home built on sacrifice, Henry's parents carried on, believing, the way parents do, that the boy they had raised was still the boy he had always been. They prayed for him by name every night. They counted coins carefully so his fees would never be late. They had given him everything they had. They simply didn't yet know what he was beginning to spend it on. Freedom, Henry was learning, doesn't announce when it turns into something else. There was no single moment where the perfect beginning became something more complicated. No door slammed, no line crossed in dramatic fashion. There was only a boy walking into another evening, surrounded by people, and somehow, quietly, alone. He did not yet know the road he was on, but the road already knew where it was going. Freedom has a price. Henry's story doesn't end here. Episode 3 is coming, and the road he's chosen will ask more of him than he expects. If this story is speaking to something in you, if you know what it feels like to drift a little from who you said you'd be, we'd love to have you with us for the rest of this journey. Subscribe to Scars and Light so you don't miss what happens next. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. You never know whose Henry moment this might be the warning for. And if this reached you tonight, drop a comment and let us know. We read everyone. Until episode 3, stay grounded, stay watchful. Freedom has a price.